Start. Hello guys, this is Nikki, you also known as Thesis Trader, and you're watching the Awesome10X. This is the Philippine market update. It's March 11, 2021. It's a Thursday. Let's begin. Okay, so the Philippine markets actually are down 89 points, but the market has actually returned to the speculative names, like the non-index names that are very speculative. Let's take a look first on the index. You can see the index market today. The market value is 8.27 billion pesos. You've got a lot of selling pressure, but the only lone greens are your mining. So your mining is actually green and 3.55%. Let's take a look at the mining sector later. You still have foreign net selling of about 808 million pesos, and the value traded is 8.27 billion, telling you that the market is very little value traded. Very strong losers in the index movers. So let's read about the index mover prices. From the index perspective, your SM Prime is 36.55, Metro Bank is 48, DMC is 5.4, Emperador is 10.2, and then you've got a lot of losers. First Gen 30, Robinson's Retail 53.8, AGI 1068, Aboitiz Power 25, Luciatan Group 13, Bloomberry 7.7, Pure Gold 35, ICT 128, Mega World 3.61, Robinson's Land 18.7, GT Capital 545, MPI 395, Security Bank 123.7, San Miguel Corporation 121, Meralco 272.2, Globe 1968, Jollibee 180.9, Telephone 1309, Ayala Corporation 773, BPI 81.5, BDO 105, URC 126, Aboitiz Equity Ventures 40, Ayala Land 36.6, JG Summit 62.7, SM 1030. So you're seeing actually the index movers are almost like back to about June, July charts. So we'll take a look at the charts of the index. Let's take a look at the charts of the index. From the index perspective, they're dropping back to levels that are, well, not yet March 2020, but it's very clear that the Philippine market is showing deterioration. And I think that has to do with the rising COVID cases in the Philippines. That's spurring actually a lot of lockdowns in the Philippines, no? So you're seeing that the Philippine market is very sensitive to any news related to COVID, that we aren't able to actually still be able to recover. And that's being seen in your market reaction. So we'll see. Let's take a look at the bigger entities in the Philippine market. So although SM hasn't fallen yet to below 1,000 levels, you could clearly see that it is unable to break free from the 1,100. So the market is still very bearish. You could see that this has been sold 1,080. Very strong resistances happening here. And although you could clearly see that, well, there are some people supporting SM at 980, it looks to me that the market is more bearish rather than bullish. So the bears will probably be selling 1080 and even 1030. They might even sell this all the way, such that an SM drop to about 880 is not unavoidable. So if SM 880 did happen, does that mean that your SM Prime will also fall? Well, you are seeing already that the SM Prime has stopped here at about 40 pesos. And right now, even if it's 10% below, here at about 36, I don't think that we are getting significant buying action. So the market might actually be bullish only at 30 pesos. Now, you might argue that 30 pesos around September, October, pre the vaccines of getting vaccine from the Moderna or Pfizer and so forth. But I think that the Philippine market is looking as if there's no vaccine. We still have a lot of COVID variants. Take note at the Philippine market news. Let's go to the Philippine news here. Philippines news lockdowns. So let's take a look at the news flow. You could see that 34 Pasay, this is February 2021, 34 Pasay city villages are under localized lockdowns. At least 34 barangays, one establishment in Pasay, have been placed under a localized lockdown since Friday after the local government recorded a sudden surge of COVID-19 cases, a city official said on Monday. So you can actually see more news about these lockdowns. Millions return to lockdown in the Philippines, so BBC. This is, well, this was August 2020, but even today, 2021, we still have the same news. In the Philippines, we have not seen a strong improvement, and almost all the vaccination programs are, it's the Philippines news is still in lockdown. So you're seeing the fears of a lockdown, baby boom in youtube.com, starving in Philippines in lockdown as a health crisis. So even in 2021, there's just so many community lockdowns that it is quite impossible to assume that the Philippine market will actually recover anytime soon. Let's read the news. Example, community quarantine lockdowns. This is March 15, 2020. How about 2021? Did things change? Let's go to the news this year, 2021. Has anything materially changed in terms of the Philippines, in terms of vaccine? Can you actually go out and not actually be afraid of the health protocols? Actually, you're still in there's UK variant cases now logged in Malabon. Example, this one, health protocol violators in Quezon City is to be fined on the spot. This is March 6, 2021. 1 year ever since the lockdown, it looks like the Philippines is not yet recovering at all. Individuals caught not wearing masks in Quezon City will be fined on the spot. Violators will be fined 300, 500, and the violators are the third time are fined 1,000 pesos. A lot of businesses in the Philippines have suffered, and you just really have to see that the reinforced security in the Philippine lockdowns is being shown in your Philippine market. So if you're gonna ask me what's happening in the Philippine market, I think the biggest news is really on the lockdowns. Let's take a look further on what else is happening. So your SMs are in a potential scary way that well, the market isn't actually yet reacting, but you have to be anticipating that, well, it's on a downtrend. Ayala Land is also topic at about 42. It's now 36.6. That 10% drop, we don't see a lot of support buyers. Could go 31, 32. Your AC is now trading at 770. If the markets collapse, then we see what 700 peso, which is 10% lower. So I could be wrong, but it looks like the Philippine market is still more on the downside rather than the upside, unless we have really good news. But I haven't seen a good news in the Philippine market, not so much. Let's read about some news from a company-specific perspective. Converge is setting a 20 billion peso capex for 2021, eyeing 55% of the homes nationwide. So Converge said that Thursday they allotted this much so that they can at least reach 55% in the next 5 years. That is what the CEO and co-founder, Mr. Dennis Anthony Uy, said in a virtual briefing. 20 to 30% will be used for the backbone infrastructure, and the rest will be funding the increase in the fiber to the home ports to deepen its network and other expenses such as further digitalization. In the future, we should have covered the entire country by 2025, at least reaching 55% of households. That Converge is focused in this field of broadband. But Mindanao is already almost done, and they have laid down an additional 1,800 kilometers of subsea cables. They also had a soft opening in Cebu, while testing in Davao would be conducted next month. They also reiterated their partnership talks with SpaceX Starlink satellite system, but this remains premature. Elon Musk SpaceX launched 800 satellites into the orbit for its satellite Starlink broadband satellite internet service. Converge in 2020 doubled their subscriber base, reaching from just 530,000 to 1 million residential subscribers in a year. Demand continues as everyone's forced to work and study at home, and net income after tax reached about 3 million in 2020, said by the company. They're launching a $600 million IPO. They launched that last year, and they're using the funds to actually deepen the backbone infrastructure. Let's read more news on the Philippine market. It says here that the Cebu City is COVID risk plateauing, says the DOH executive. However, the DOH reminds the public, keep the guard up as COVID-19 cases continue to rise. So this is actually March 11, 2021. In the race between COVID-19 infection and vaccination, the public must remain vigilant, waiting for the coronavirus jab. Recent increase in cases cannot be categorized as a surge, but you must be careful during this uptick. We are now already in a vaccination rollout, but this does not put down our guards. It's still going to be dark and winding before we hit that light. There has to be a very strict adherence to the minimum health standards. Enhance it if you want to. So far, the Philippines logged 2,886 additional coronavirus infections, bringing the total to 603,308. 44,470 active cases in DOH latest report, which is the highest count since October 24 last year. This increasing trend, however, is not the second wave, nor is it a surge, which would have indicated a continuous increase in the number of cases. He noted that after a year of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a sense of complacency. People are relaxed, and this could have contributed to the rising number of new infections. Mobility as the economy reopens could also be a factor. You don't see people wearing masks, and then you can see this kind of mobility and less adherence to protocols. So yung mga yon. So that's what's happening in the Philippine market. All right. So yeah, so let's try to see as well the news on other non-index names. So while your index names are actually in the fallout, so you could see that your BDOs, PPIs, Metro Banks have reached resistances. Let's take a look as well on the stats. No, so that means the Philippine index movers are likely to fall further. Meanwhile, the market actually voyeured to the non-index speculative names yet again. You're seeing Dito Telecom, after reaching 9 pesos, is now trading at 10.5. Just because it's an oversold bounce. And then you see your APL after reaching 1650, now trading at 2008. And then your FA from about 195, reaching 2.45, 10% up, 16%, 26, 25%, and another 10% up for your Merrimart. And then your ASIN is just up 1%. So your Davin is up 17%. Technically speaking, what you're seeing in the market is that the non-index speculative names got the rotation while the index continues to slump. So that's what's happening in the Philippine market. Okay, let's read on your commentaries. Good PM. No catalyst. PSEI may be going down to 6.5 level. Possible. Actually, it could even fall to about 6.3. So it looks like your index, your banks, your properties, your malls, your conglomerates. I don't see a strong, broad rally in the Philippine market. I still see it going down. So I could be wrong, of course. Let's say suddenly the market just jumps for joy in the next couple days because vaccine rollout. But so far, we don't seem to see any buying action in the index. Only the non-index movers are getting buying. And if you take a look at the Philippine market, around 5 billion pesos, if you add all of this, 3.2 plus 5, 3.7, 4.3, then you add more BSC. So about 5 billion pesos in the Philippine market are what you'd call junk stocks. That would be speculative names, tier 3 names. That tells you that there is no appetite in the index names of the Philippine market. Hello, do you still have position in the Philippine market? Most of my money is global. But I got rid of my Philippine positions, but I have some positions left there. Mga dati ko pa yon na hindi ko na nabenta. Pero as to buying anything new, I'm not buying Philippine markets. Whenever I have cash, I deposit it in my global market account. I invest globally because I think that there is a logic to invest in innovation. There's a logical reason to invest in AI, artificial intelligence, 5G, blockchains, electric vehicles, solar. So medyo, I think in the Philippine market, because the options to invest in the Philippine markets, very little reward in terms of industry. That's why I voyeured mostly in the US. Are speculatives good to get in now? I actually don't trade speculative names. So it looks like today they rose, right? So you could see that all of these speculative names got a bout of buyers. Your dito, APL, FA, So technically speaking, the Philippine market right now, 5 billion pesos is all what you'd say basura traders. So naging speculative stocks lang yung Philippine market So yeah, ganun yung nangyari sa Philippine market. Wala nang nangyayari. Yun. All right. So for those who are listening, I think that your Philippine markets, however, have of course a value. Even if it's going down, ano yung ipipick up mo? Let's take a look at the worst losers so far. Okay, from a worst loser standpoint, you're seeing ano bang mga bumaba? PNB bumaba 23.9. We saw that actually bottom at 18. So pwede yan. Pag bumagsak ng mga 18 to 20, people might actually buy that. SM di pa mababa. So hintayin mo. Globe, hintayin mo pa. San Miguel has a buyer at about 100 if that falls. DNL, parang may buyer to below 7. JG Summit, may buyer talaga to sa mga 58, 56, malapit na, isang 10% drop. So, yeah, I think like the Philippine market is doing 6-7. In fairness, I don't think that the Philippine market's gonna go 5,000 area. So, or if it did, of course, some people might actually deploy a lot in the Philippine market if that happened. Is SSP still a good buy? SSP, I think you've got some buyers from some people who believes in it kasi may revenues and then they reiterated the contract. Pero the problem with SSP is that liquidity, no? So yung ibang speculative names, meron siyang 5 billion pesos na value traded. Ito, wala. So it's just sleeping since April. You could argue na yung pinaka-bottom niya was 111 and then the pinaka-high is about 173. So I don't know if you can get it as low as 1 peso or 80 cents, no? But it used to trade as low as even 50 cents during the March crash. So I think like what you can see in SSP is just doldrums. Wala lang talagang appetite for them. You could see that there's no value traded, no value turnover. Yun yung mahirap sa Philippine market. You could argue that maybe the company has revenues, pero if nobody's really participating, wala rin kwenta. Kasi the participation action that you could clearly see in the top traded is only focused on Dito, APL, FA, Merimart, Asen, BSC, Davin, diba? At least nandyan konti si TBGI, si Costco, si BHI, diba? Yan yung mga non-speculative names. Yan yung mga speculative names. Nandyan yung market, diba? Asen is there, diba? Pero yun, yung iba, walang volume. So if walang volume, walang value traded, mahihirapan umangat si SSP. Think that the Philippine market has a lack of volume and liquidity more than anything. The biggest problem is that if tinanggal mo yung mga speculative names, the Philippine market would just be a 3 billion peso market valuation, which actually is not a lot. 3 billion pesos is just $60 million. So I'd say that the Philippine market has lack of any foreign buyer. Nobody actually is looking to buy the Philippine market in a value sense right now. So that means that nobody has conviction. At least that's what we see, whether it's Mega World or Ayala Land. We don't see that buying action so far. Pababa siya, no? We've got a resistance at 4.2, baka hintayin pa ng market to sa 2.9, which is about 20% lower. I just think na, of course, I'd let the market decide, but it looks like I just don't see the buyers yet. That's all. I mean, it's just what I see. So I just share and report what I observe. Nothing wrong, of course, if you are looking to bargain hunt in the Philippine market. But it all rests, of course, in the recovery on how fast the Philippine economy can recover. So some people might say 2022, the US and the Philippines recovers, maybe US recovers faster, but yun, so if US and China recovers, then Philippines will eventually recover. But I think that the Philippines is a laggard. So laggard yan. You'll make money matagal. That's all that I can say. The Philippine market, for you to make money, it might take a longer time unless, within a year, andito na. We can all go out. COVID vaccine, work na tayo lahat, and so forth. So yun, parang I just don't see that yet happening. Thank you. All right, bye-bye.